I've got a quick one for you today. I was recently sent a preview code for a demo for an upcoming pixel art horror RPG called The Backworld. It's cool, let me tell you about it. The Backworld is wearing its influences on its sleeve. The developers mentioned a bunch of influences when they sent me the demo key, such as Fear and Hunger, Look Outside, Omori, Lisa, and Earthbound. But visually, what this reminds me of the most is not Mother 2, but Mother 3. I love all three Mother games, but Mother 3 is definitely the most stunning visually, so this got my attention. The Backworld looks good. I like this sprite art, and the animations are really fluid. Look at these menus. Look at them. Beautiful. What this really is, though, as you may have gathered from the title alone, is a Backrooms RPG. Now, I don't know much about the Backrooms. My internet horror drug of choice is the SCP Foundation and, Candle Cove and No End House. I watched the Kane Pixel series. I'm more of an oldest view man myself, and I played Escape the Backrooms co-op with a friend. That's my entire experience with that universe. I do not know the lore. I cannot comment on whether this is a good Backrooms game or not. What I can tell you is that as someone who does not care about the Backrooms at all, this world works really well for this type of survival horror dungeon crawler RPG. The Backrooms is already divided into distinct levels, and you can encounter other survivors who have set up shops and towns, or the remnants of doomed expeditions you can loot. I wouldn't have thought of this from what little Backrooms media I've experienced, but it's actually a perfect fit for a dungeon crawler. The Backrooms are no different from the Schwarzwelt from Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, at least structurally. I have to be the first person who's ever said that sentence, right? The gameplay is where I see those Fear and Hunger and Look Outside comparisons. This is a resource management survival horror RPG like those games, not a straightforward RPG mechanically like the Mother games or Omori. Like Fear and Hunger, you are often incentivized to avoid combat because you do not get experience points for defeating enemies, you only get cash. While cash is useful to buy consumable items and better equipment, there's no level grinding, and the resources you use to win in a fight are typically worth more than what you receive in cash for defeating an enemy. I'm pretty sure there are also a finite number of enemies. You can't just infinitely respawn generic enemies to farm them for cash, so stretching your resources as far as possible is pretty important. Unlike Fear and Hunger, there are still straight character levels in this game. You do collect experience points to level up, but those experience points don't come from defeating monsters. They're a collectible, basically. There are little blue fire sprites scattered throughout the levels, and collecting enough of them levels you up. I think this is a pretty cool way of handling experience for this style of game. A way to do levels without the player feeling like they're falling behind on the curve if they sneak past or outrun an enemy. This game has a very robust difficulty selection separated into multiple parts. RPG difficulty, which is basically combat difficulty, survival mode, which is how heavy the resource management features are, and map type, which includes full map always visible, dark map, which you have to explore to reveal, no map, and negative map, which also removes landmarks from the game itself to make navigation more difficult. Once you've beaten the demo once, you also unlock a single save slot permadeath, where your save file is deleted upon dying, a la the honor mode from Larian games. For my playthrough, I wanted to go with what seemed like the most baseline difficulty possible, so I picked what felt like the middlemost option for each of these: medium RPG difficulty, Delver survival mode, dark map. That felt pretty well balanced to me. The combat was difficult. I had to use everything the game threw at me and manage resources carefully, and I died a handful of times from playing carelessly, but it didn't feel insurmountable. That's what I'm looking for out of a standard difficulty. I really like this modular approach to difficulty. It reminds me of how the Silent Hill games let you pick your combat difficulty and puzzle difficulty separately, something I've always been a fan of. If you like difficult RPGs from a combat perspective, but don't want to mess with resource management, you can set the game up so you can play it that way. If you like getting lost in a game but don't like difficult combat, you can set the RPG and survival difficulties to easy, but turn on negative map. This also adds a ton of replayability. I'm a big fan, is what I'm saying. There's a pretty good variety of enemies in the demo too, some of which I recognize as Backrooms things, but some of which are references to other pieces of media. There is something undeniably cool to me about seeing a Mother 3-esque art style applied to characters like the Slender Man, or, oh my god, Nina.
Edward. That person, Edward. Big Brother Ed.
Well, gotta put her down, I guess. Another cool inclusion in this game are Eternal Darkness-esque sanity effects that mess with your perception of the game. Each party member has their own unique disadvantages in combat at low sanity, like Heidi, who will start using your consumables on her own if you let her sanity get too low. But there are also blanket sanity effects like the UI messing up, or, at least on higher survival difficulties, health bars not displaying accurate information, which can be very confusing and crippling in difficult fights. I love sanity systems like this. Each party member has their own completely unique playstyle, and special resource which is used for their most powerful abilities, in addition to energy points, EP, which function like normal mana. The main character, for example, recharges some of their special energy every turn, while Heidi, the second party member you get, recharges 1 point of her special resource for each EP she spends. Another party member recharges his special resource based on how much damage he takes, and yet another one recharges it every time an enemy is killed. This does remind me of Look Outside, where each party member has their own quirks that can radically change their playstyle. You're able to have a party of 4 members active at once, but you can sub party members in during combat, so the ones you're not actively using still function as a reserve, making everyone useful. There's also quite a bit of equipment to find or buy, including sets which seem like they also open up new playstyles. Again, like Look Outside, the characters have their own innate abilities, but equipment also gives you both active and passive abilities. For example, there's a set of items based around poisoning the enemy. Each piece of equipment gives you active abilities that let you poison the enemy, but equipping the set also increases the amount of damage poison does, and the number of turns poison will be applied for. I really like how these set bonuses seem like they'll let you build characters into specific niches, and make each playthrough play a little differently. The biggest question I have after completing the demo is if the full game will be able to set itself apart from its influences. When I played this demo, I was frequently able to say, "Oh, cool, this is the Yume Nikki part. I like that." Or, "Oh, cool, the Slender Man. I know that guy." Or, "Oh, almond water. I remember drinking that to regain my sanity in that Backrooms game I played. Cool." None of these references felt forced, none of them felt distracting, they all work in context, but I do hope there are more things in the full game that only belong to the Backworld. By the time this video is live, that demo will be public on Steam, so you'll be able to check the game out for yourself, and I recommend that you do. This is a demo in the same way Deltarune Chapter 1 is a demo. It's a game in its own right, with a to be continued at the end. The developer told me to expect about 5 hours of content in the demo, and by the end of the demo, I was north of 3 hours played, and I definitely didn't do everything available. I am optimistic about this game based on the demo. It's not perfect, but I do think it's extremely promising, and I look forward to checking out the full game when it's released. I had a good time with this demo, and I think you will too. The full game is targeting a release later in 2026, according to the Steam page. The developer also has a YouTube channel with updates and gameplay clips of the game, so go check that out, link in the description below. Thank you all for watching this video, and special thank you to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members for giving their real-life hard-earned cash to help me keep making videos. Chaotic. Dusan Kovacevic. Rules in Place. Raxarox. Unhealthy Caillou. Aurelia 14. Alex Dunn. Alan Fortes. Schmandolf the Schmay. Kirsten. Captain Swing. Devale. Lieria. Theo D. Dangerous Corpse. Gassan Abanura. Patrizia Frabetti. Sninkelberg. Ziggy the 31st. Tsaivoafehi. Dan Luther. Jose Armalas. William, Cabbage, Flora, Alex Smith, Pete Lee, Shiny Emptyhead, That's All, Bell Mage, and Malachi Murphy. Until next time, everyone, take care.